not in my path. How canst thou walk in the ways of them that are content with my pleasure? Trials afflict thee not in the longing to meet me. How wilt thou attain the light in the love for my beauty? How wilt thou attain the light in the love for my beauty?
Blessed art thou, O night, for through thee was born the day of God, a day which we have ordained to be the lamp of salvation unto the denizens of the cities of names, the chalice of victory unto the champions of the arenas of eternity, and the dawning place of joy and exaltation unto all creation. It was the hour just before dawn, on the 1st of Muharram, 1235 in the Muslim lunar calendar, the very first day ushering in a new year. In Shiraz, within the upper chamber of his uncle's house, the Bab was born. At the hour of dawn, on the 2nd of Muharram, 1233 in the Muslim lunar calendar, in the capital city of Tehran, a child was born into an ancient noble family, whose lineage can be traced back to the prophet Abraham and the great kings of the Sasanian Empire. This child would later become known as Baha'u'llah. On the 23rd of May, 1844, the Bab, meaning the gate, herald of a new dispensation and forerunner of Baha'u'llah, declared himself to his first disciple. It was his mission, the Bab proclaimed, to herald the coming of him whom God shall make manifest, who would usher in an age of peace and justice that was the hope of every longing heart and the promise of every religion. Baha'u'llah, meaning the glory of God, summoned by the Almighty to deliver a new revelation to humanity and to provide the continued driving force that shapes and elevates human dignity and that serves to advance humanity's collective life. Through a ministry that spanned 40 years, Baha'u'llah faced banishment, imprisonment, and persecution, yet revealed over thousands of tablets, outlined a framework for the development of a global civilization that takes into account both the spiritual and material dimensions of human life. Previously, the celebrations of the birthdays of the Bab and Baha'u'llah were observed on the first and second days of Muharram each year, or the corresponding Gregorian dates of their births, which were October 20th and November 12th. This year marks the very first time the entire Baha'i world commemorates the birthdays of the twin manifestations in consecutive days. These 2 days are accounted as one in the sight of God, Baha'u'llah says. Inaugurated by the Bab and affirmed by Baha'u'llah, Baha'is of the East and West are now called upon to adopt on that auspicious occasion the provisions that will unite them in the common implementation of the Baha'i calendar. The Universal House of Justice, the International Governing Council of the Baha'i Faith, further stated, the adoption of a new calendar in each dispensation is a symbol of the power of divine revelation to reshape human perception of material, social, and spiritual reality. Through it, sacred moments are distinguished, humanity's place in time and space reimagined, and the rhythm of life recast. The Baha'i Faith is established in over 100,000 localities around the world. Young and old, men and women, youth and child, Baha'is are engaged in activities that contribute to the betterment of the world they live in by supporting and implementing grassroots initiatives. These include education programs for children, youth, and adults, the integration of service and worship in one's daily life, and being involved in activities that elevate society's material and spiritual well-being. O ye children of men, the fundamental purpose animating the faith of God and His religion is to safeguard the interests and promote the unity of the human race, and to foster the spirit of love and fellowship amongst men. Whatsoever is raised on this foundation, the changes and chances of the world can never impair its strength, nor will the revolution of countless centuries undermine its structure.
Welcome everyone to this momentous celebration marking 200 years since the birth of Baha'u'llah. My name is Yasmin and I am from the Boise Baha'i community. At this time, would you please silence your cell phones?
My name is Richard and I am from the Caldwell Baha'i community. This afternoon we are going to explore some answers to the questions: who is Baha'u'llah? What does his life and message mean for us? What is his vision?
In addressing these questions, we will look at some episodes of his extraordinary life, touch upon some of his teachings, and throughout, share some of our culture of our community. We will begin with an opening prayer sung by Olivia Jameson.
Blessed is the sky and the house and the place and the city and the heart and the mountains and the refuge and the cave and the valley and the sea and the islands and the meadow, adventure God has been made, and his praise glorified.
Today we celebrate the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah, who we believe is the messenger of God, or manifestation of God, for this great day in which we live. To manifest means to make known. And so, the mission of the manifestation of God is to deliver the divine message to humanity, to regenerate the hearts of all, to breathe into the world a new spirit, to address the ills and needs of our modern age, and to raise the kingdom of God on earth. This great luminary wholly sacrifices his own will to carry out the will of God.
National and local leaders across the world, including Australia, India, and the United States, have written tributes honoring the bicentennial birth of Baha'u'llah. We are very happy that the city of Boise has recognized this day with a proclamation written by our mayor, David Beater. Let's begin our celebration by welcoming Barbara, who will read the Boise Mayor's proclamation for this special day.
The Office of the Mayor, City of Boise, State of Idaho, Proclamation. Whereas the Baha'i community of Boise, Idaho was established in 1937, and whereas a need of humanity is the achievement of unity, peace, and justice in our communities, and whereas in the 19th century, Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i Faith, brought a message of human dignity, capacity, and oneness, suited to the requirements of contemporary life. And October 22nd, 2017, marks the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah. And whereas, since 1937, the Baha'i community of Boise, Idaho, has striven to apply this vision to the material and spiritual life of Boise, collaborating with others to promote unity and to serve their fellow citizens. And whereas the Baha'is of Boise and their families, friends, neighbors, and colleagues are commemorating this bicentenary, along with Baha'is across the United States and around the world. And now, therefore, I, David H. Beater, Mayor of the City of Boise, do hereby proclaim October 22nd, 2017 as Bicentenary of the Birth of Baha'u'llah.
Thank you, Barbara. Now we welcome to the stage special guest, Stephen Heinz.
Baha'u'llah have said, "You are as the leaves of one tree." Here I am, just a wee little bud on a tiny twig, so filled with love Together, all my friends and me are as happy as can be. Sustenance from the root of the tree, support from the limbs holding me, rays from the sun that I grow beneath. Someday I'll be a Spring's about done, summer's near, and this little leaf is filled with cheer. Just to be a small part of this tree so filled with love. And as those springtime breezes blow, this little leaf will grow and grow, working at being a small part of this tree so filled with love. And as those springtime breezes blow, this little leaf will grow and grow, working at being a small part of this tree so filled with love.
Baha'u'llah, whose title in English means the glory of God, was born in 1817 to a wealthy family in Tehran, Persia, where his father was a minister in the Persian government. Baha'u'llah's birth name was Ḥusayn Alí, and he was a calm and contented baby. As a child, he displayed a purity of character and showed innate wisdom and knowledge. By the time he was 13, Baha'u'llah was renowned for his ability to discuss any matter and resolve any problem presented to him. He spoke to large gatherings of the leading clergy, resolving intricate religious questions and amazing them all. Baha'u'llah received no formal schooling, but learned the traditional skills of horse riding, swordsmanship, good manners, calligraphy, poetry, and the ability to read and recite the words of the Quran. And as he grew into maturity, he became known for his kindness and generosity. At 18, Baha'u'llah married the very beautiful and intelligent Asiya Kanu, who also came from a noble and wealthy family. Her wedding treasures were so extensive that 40 mules were needed to carry them to their home. Yet the wealth they inherited was spent on charitable ends. They did not occupy themselves in the luxurious habits of the wealthy, but instead cared for the poor and for all who were unhappy or troubled. Baha'u'llah was called the father of the poor, and Asiya was named the mother of consolation. When his father passed, the government was eager for Baha'u'llah to succeed him in the ministry, but he declined. Even the Prime Minister himself offered him a post. This too was declined.
Baha'u'llah became devoted to a new religious movement sweeping across Persia, founded by the luminary whose title was the Bab, in English, the Gate. He proclaimed the promised one of all religions was soon to come. This movement greatly alarmed the clergy and the government, who began persecuting, torturing, and killing the adherents. Baha'u'llah was spared from execution because he was so admired by the people. However, he was tortured, and all of his wealth was confiscated. He was confined to the notorious underground prison known as the Black Pit of Tehran. Wyatt, would you describe the conditions of this horrible dungeon?
The
The Black Pit was a prison for the most dangerous highwaymen and murderers. The only entrance was a small opening leading down 3 flights of stairs to the darkness below. Little light penetrated the prison floor. Here, Baha'u'lláh was placed. This is the beginning of what would become almost 40 years of imprisonment. His feet were locked in stocks. Around his neck were placed chains weighing 100 pounds. Only rancid food and filthy water were provided to the prisoners in this stench-filled, vermin-infested dungeon. No one was expected to leave this prison alive. In this gloomy place, the most extraordinary thing happened. This is from the pen of Baha'u'lláh himself. During the days I lay in the prison of Tehran, though the galling weight of the chains and the stench-filled air allowed me but little sleep, still in those infrequent moments of slumber, I felt as if something flowed from the crown of my head over my breast. Even as a mighty torrent that precipitated itself upon the earth from the summit of a lofty mountain. Every limb of my body would, as a result, be set afire. Later he continues, while engulfed in tribulations, I heard a most wondrous, a most sweet voice calling above my head. Turning my face, I beheld a maiden suspended in the air before me. So rejoiced was she in her very soul that her countenance shone with the ornament of the good pleasure of God, and her cheeks glowed with the brightness of the All-Merciful. Pointing with her finger unto my head, she addressed all who are in heaven and all who are on earth, saying, by God, this is the best beloved of the world. This is the best beloved of the worlds, and yet ye comprehend not. This is the beauty of God amongst you, and the power of his sovereignty within you, could ye but understand. In this black pit came the call from God to Baha'u'lláh to be his messenger. This revelation, however, was not yet to be shared with humanity. Baha'u'lláh would not disclose his mission for another 10 years.
What a stunning contrast. In this most loathsome black pit, surrounded by the worst of all criminals, Baha'u'lláh receives the divine instruction and recites the most loftiest new verses of God. They expected him to perish in prison, didn't they, Megan?
Yes, they did. But Baha'u'lláh survived and was released after 3 months due to the tireless efforts of his family and supporters. He was ordered into exile to Baghdad, far, far from Tehran. It was the middle of a harsh winter, and the conditions were so bad that his youngest child had to be left behind. Asiya sold the pearls and precious gems from her garments to buy provisions for the trip, which lasted almost 3 months. The dispirited followers of this new religious movement in Baghdad were drawn to Baha'u'lláh and soon looked to him as their leader. He rejuvenated the community and became so loved by the general population that the Persian authorities became worried and demanded that the Ottoman government exile him further from Iran. He was politely asked by the officials in Baghdad to leave for Constantinople, today's city of Istanbul in Turkey. Before leaving, Baha'u'llah invited the people of Baghdad to a beautiful garden on the Tigris River called the Garden of Rizwan, where he announced that he is the promised one whose advent they had so long awaited. The profound sadness of his followers and vast numbers of admirers was transformed into blissful joy by this great announcement. This public declaration of his mission to humankind is celebrated each year by Baha'is around the world as the most joyous festival of Rizwan.
But this was not the end of his exiles, was it, Luke?
Unlike his first exile, on his way to Constantinople, he was greeted in every village he passed through with an outpouring of love such as a king would envy. The band of exiles were provided with a house, and then again with a more spacious one. The Persian authorities were outraged that he was being treated so well, and they again put pressure on the Ottoman government to exile him even farther away. The exiles were sent to a remote corner of the empire, to a city called Adrianople, which is modern-day Edirne, on the European continent. After a while, the Sultan became tired of the controversy surrounding the exiles and decided to send them even farther to a place where he hoped to never hear of them again. They were sent to the prison city of Akka, Palestine, now in modern-day Israel. Baha'u'llah named this the most great prison. Akka itself was feared throughout the Ottoman Empire. It was said that the air was so foul that should a bird fly overhead, it would fall down dead. The citizenry was told to beware of these exiles and so treated them with great hostility. Enemies of Baha'u'llah and operatives of the Persian government watched over the prison and tried to prevent visitors from reaching him. Baha'u'llah wrote of these times.
The ancient beauty hath consented to be bound with chains, that mankind may be released from its bondage, and hath accepted to be made a prisoner within this most mighty stronghold, that the whole world may attain unto true liberty. He hath drained to its dregs the cup of sorrow, that all the peoples of the earth may attain unto abiding joy, and be filled with gladness. This is the mercy of your Lord, the compassionate, the most merciful. We have accepted to be abased, O believers, in the unity of God, that ye may be exalted and have suffered manifold afflictions, that ye might prosper and flourish.
Over times, the guards, the government, and the populace could not help but notice the exemplary behavior and fine character of this band of exiles, especially the eldest son of Baha'u'llah, who deeply impressed everyone, caring for the sick, helping all who needed assistance, even while he himself was ill. As Baha'u'llah was repeatedly exiled across the Middle East, it was amazing that the people he encountered, instead of vilifying him, were drawn to him and loved and admired him. What's more, his exiles from place to place fulfilled the prophecy of Micah 7:12.
In that day also he shall come to thee even from Assyria.
Baha'u'llah came from what was once in the midst of the Assyrian Empire, as known by Micah.
And from the fortified cities.
Baha'u'llah came from the fortified cities of Constantinople to the fortified city of Akka.
And from the fortress even to the river.
Baha'u'llah came to the ancient river Belus, just a stone's throw away from the fortress of Akka when he was released from the prison.
And from sea to sea.
Baha'u'llah came across the Black Sea in exile to Constantinople, and across the Mediterranean Sea on his last exile to the Holy Land.
And from mountain to mountain.
Baha'u'llah came from Mount Sargalwint in the valley of the Tigris and Euphrates River, from ancient Babylon to Mount Carmel, the vineyard of God in Israel. This is truly amazing.
That is amazing indeed. As we reflect on this, let us enjoy a prayer sung in Arabic. We invite everyone to join in. The video screen will show an informal translation of the words.
Allahumma ya Subhan ya Quddus ya Hannan ya Mannan farij lana bil fazl wal ihsan innaka rahmanun mannan.
Allahumma ya Subhan ya Qudus ya Mannan Allahumma ya Subhan ya Qudus ya Rahman ya Mannan Farish lana bil fazl wal ihsan innaka rahmanun mannan innaka rahmanun mannan Allahumma ya Subhan ya Qudus ya Rahman ya Mannan Allahumma ya Subhan ya Qudus ya Rahman ya Mannan Farish lana bil fazl wal ihsan innaka rahmanun mannan innaka rahmanun mannan
Allahumma ya Subhan ya Quddus ya Hannan ya Mannan farij lana bil fazl wal ihsan innaka rahmanun Allahumma ya Subhan ya Quddus ya Hannan ya Mannan farij lana bil fazl wal ihsan innaka rahmanun Allahumma ya Subhan ya Quddus ya Hannan ya Mannan farij lana bil fazl wal ihsan innaka rahmanun
Another extraordinary theme emerged during these exiles. What can you tell us, Beth?
There's an amazing tale to tell of how this prisoner issued the summons to the kings and rulers of the world. Remember, at this time, kings, rulers were absolute. Their power was never questioned. Baha'u'llah wrote to all the powerful rulers, calling upon them to recognize him as the messenger of God, to pursue justice and disarmament, exhorting them to band together in a commonwealth of nations, warning them of the dire consequences should they fail to establish peace, advising them to expend their wealth for the good of the people and to care for the poor in their midst. The letters written by Baha'u'llah began in 1867 in Adrianople and continued later from Akka. The recipients included Emperor Napoleon III, Queen Victoria, Kaiser Wilhelm I, Tsar Alexander II, Emperor Franz Joseph, Pope Pius IX, Abdul Aziz the Sultan, and the Persian ruler Nasiruddin Shah, among other people.
How did the kings and rulers react?
With one exception, not well. For example, the messenger who delivered the letter to Nasiruddin Shah, he was tortured and executed. Many of the rulers were reported to have reacted with disdain. All but one, only one was reported to have been friendly, and that was Queen Victoria. And she replied, "If this is of God, it will endure. If not, it can do no harm." Baha'u'llah wrote to the kings again, telling them that their kingdom would come to naught, but this was unimaginable. This lowly prisoner was telling the kings that they would lose their power if they did not obey his call. No one could imagine these kings falling from power, living in fear or as prisoners, or even assassinated. And yet that's what happened for all except Queen Victoria.
And this is documented history. We can look up each of them and see the story of their fall, one after another.
What then became of our band of prisoners and exiles, Vernell?
Well, over time, the guards, the government, and the populace could not help but notice the exemplary behavior and fine character of this group of exiles. Gradually, the severity of the imprisonment was relaxed, and they were invited by the populace to live in houses in the city. The governor of Akka even asked Baha'u'llah to live in the clear atmosphere outside the city. Though technically still prisoners, Baha'u'llah's family was able to move to the mansion of Boise outside of Akka. Here Baha'u'llah wrote thousands of letters, held countless audiences with visitors, and wrote over 100 books of guidance to the world. Today, the Baha'i World Center is located in this vicinity, and I myself have had the privilege of serving there with my husband for 3 years. The shrine of Baha'u'llah is located next to the mansion where he lived the latter years of his life. Across the bay in Haifa is the shrine of the Baha'i, which Baha'u'llah directed his eldest son to construct and indicated the exact spot. The administrative center of the worldwide Baha'i community overlooks the shrine of the Baha'i in an arc of spectacular buildings and gardens. The central building of this arc is the seat of the Universal House of Justice, the institution which Baha'u'llah created to maintain the unity of the faith, and to provide continuing guidance to humanity as we work together to usher in the kingdom of God on earth.
What a powerful transformation from prisoner and exile to then having freedom to carry out his mission and bringing a new revelation into the world. Let us welcome Steve and Parisa, who will share one small verse from the ocean of his writings, first spoken in Persian and then sung in English.
به نام گوینده توانا، ای دوستان، ای دوستان، به جمال فانی از جمال باقی مگذرید و به خاکدان ترابی دل مبندید.
Oh friends, abandon not everlasting beauty for a beauty that must die, and set not your affections on this mortal world.
ای دوستان، ای دوستان، به جمال فانی از جمال باقی مگذرید و به خاکدان ترابی دل مبندید.
These were just a few glimpses into the life of Baha'u'llah. The more he and his followers were persecuted, the wider his message spread through the world. Nothing could put out the light he was destined to spread. So, Barbara, what is the message that has attracted people from every country of the world?
Well, honestly, we are all working towards truly grasping the magnitude of this vision, which is God's plan for us. Baha'u'llah wrote numerous volumes which guide us on this path. He describes people as being created noble, of having the task to know God and to worship God, to carry forward an ever-advancing civilization. In his words, regard man as a mine rich in gems of inestimable value. Education can alone cause it to reveal its treasures and enable mankind to benefit therefrom. He identifies that unity is the crying need of humankind, that people are one family and there is no room for prejudice of any kind. He urged the kings of the world to unite, and when they did not, he removed them from power and gave the task to the generality of mankind. He called the world to a universal peace. Could you share his words for us?
My object is none other than the betterment of the world and the tranquility of its people. The well-being of mankind, its peace and security, are unattainable unless and until its unity is firmly established. This unity can never be achieved so long as the counsels which the pen of the Most High hath revealed are suffered to pass unheeded.
He taught that unity can only be achieved when justice is universal. He wrote extensively on this theme and created laws that result in justice for all. It's really impossible for me to convey his message, his vision, in just a few minutes, but we can summarize it by saying that the overall vision is a unified world operating on a global scale of cooperation, whose people abide in love and unity, and they work together to solve its pressing needs, such as collective security, universal education, expending wealth on service instead of armaments for destruction, eradication of poverty and hunger, achieving economic and social development in a sustainable way, and leading to the happiness of all people. These things, we believe, are not only possible, but it's our inescapable destiny. Baha'u'llah exhorted us to love all humanity and express that love through action.
What actions can we, as individuals, undertake?
Well, we're tasked with community building. So together, we can all build a pattern of community life. Love for all humanity must be accompanied by service to our communities, to enrich its devotional and spiritual character, to instill moral values and acquisition of virtues in our children, to inspire and empower everyone, especially the junior youth who are with us today, those between the ages of 11 and 15, who have a strong sense of justice and much energy and are trying to find their place in the world. So we must direct those energies into making the world a better place. And then, of course, we as adults are developing a culture of continuous learning and humbly accompanying others on their paths of service. To be obedient to Baha'u'llah is to lead a lifetime of service to humanity. Each of our efforts combine, and before long, we will have that promised kingdom of God on earth.
Indeed, Baha'is around the world are working in their cities and neighborhoods to build peaceful communities. We invite you to visit the information table at the side of the room, which highlights our activities within the Treasure Valley. There are neighborhood devotional meetings, children's classes, junior youth spiritual empowerment programs, and circles of study which develop vital community-building skills needed to help everyone on the path of service. We welcome your involvement in these community-building activities with open arms.
We invite you to remain as long as you like. At 4:30, we will resume with the recitation of several tablets revealed by Baha'u'llah and a reading from the message of the Universal House of Justice. There is a display in the back of the room which gives you an opportunity for a more in-depth exploration of the life and vision of Baha'u'llah and to read some of his writings. On the screen, we will have some interesting short video clips, and there is an opportunity for meaningful conversation amongst yourselves. Baha'u'llah offers this simple call to action.
Ilahi, Ilahi, Saramu Jamrat Ramu, Yedohe Hikmat Barafrufti, Azariah مختلف حفظ اجتماع سراج استار زجاج استار حرکت قلم امر مبرمت را نصرت فرمودی و اولیا را راه نمودی تویی مالک قدرت و ملیک اقتدار لا اله الا انت العزیز المختار.
In this day, Baha'u'llah, talking to the world about justice. Oh, what a wonder this justice. Surely it's the day of God. In this day, Baha'u'llah, talking to the world about oneness. Oh, what a wonder this oneness. Surely it's the day of God. Blessed beauty, blessed beauty, hallelujah, he has come, he has come. In this day, Baha'u'llah, talking to the world about justice. Oh, what a wonder this justice. Surely it's the day of God. Blessed beauty, blessed beauty, hallelujah, he has come, he has come. In this day, Baha'u'llah, talking to the world about justice. Oh, what a wonder this justice. Surely it's the day of God. Surely it's the day of God.
It has been a joy celebrating this world-encompassing bicentenary with all of you. Please enjoy the hospitality of the spiritual assembly of the Baha'is of Boise. Refreshments are now available just outside the room. If you exit through the door on your left for some food and some drink, and then return to browse through the displays, be sure to stop by the information table and receive a special gift made just for this occasion.
Thank you all for coming and celebrating with us today.
Thank you.